I mentioned that one of the ways that biologists define the difference between males and females is the size of the gametes and also the mobility, right? Sperm tend to be able to swim, whereas they tend to be small and fast and are able to swim, whereas the eggs tend to not move, right? And they are much larger and they take a lot more energy to produce. So when we talk about sex determination, we have some examples where it is genetically determined, and that is the way it is with us. So we have genetic determination, and let me just get this out of the way. Tools, normal pan, there we go. So we have genetic. So it could be just a gene. In some insects, it's just a single gene, but we have an extra chromosome. And so we say that it is the X and the Y chromosomes that in us, in mammals, would be the sex chromosomes. So we say that males are heterogametic. So they are the heterogametic sex. So they are XY. And so what this means is that the sperm could either have an X chromosome in it or a Y chromosome. And so this is why they say that it is the male that determines the sex of the offspring. Hetero means other, gamete, right? So females are the homogametic sex. So they are XX. Now, this is not always the case. In birds, we have Z and W. They just gave them different letters, the sex chromosomes. And so when we look at the females, they are the heterogametic. So they are ZW, and then my males are actually ZZ. When we look at reptiles, like specifically turtles, these could maybe not even be genetic. So here, it's not genetic, it is environmental. And so it generally has to do with the temperature of incubation. And it could be that some of the eggs in a nest are in the center, and so they have a higher temperature, so they would be more likely to become, say, for example, a male or a female, and then vice versa, the eggs on the outside. And so it's the temperature that determines the sex. So it has nothing to do with genetics. That is fascinating. The temperature is what turns genes on and turns genes off, which that gene regulation is what causes the differences that are observed in males and females. Now, some species can actually change sex. And so we call this changing of sex sequential hermaphrodism. And this is, for example, relatively common in bony fish. And so this is where you could you would be a female, for example, and you could actually turn into a male. And this usually has to do with what is going on in the population. So if there's a lack of males, then some of the females will become males, and then they will be able to fertilize the eggs. And so being able to change hermaphrodism, you remember, is both, but sequential means that they're either male or female depending upon their environment. So that is a strategy, a reproductive strategy that is important in some species.